You are not going to believe, or maybe you are, what Piers Morgan did. Piers Morgan has become a reoccurring subject and character on this show. Number one, because I think he's representative of a lot of people in the media who make careers out of, at least in this current era of his career, telling people, no, I'm not MAGA, I'm unbiased journalist here, and then just perpetuating MAGA talking points nonstop and not being honest about that. And then number two, because I've been going on there relatively frequently on the Piers Morgan Uncensored show, it's become personal. And so I want to show you something that he published. But before I do that, you have to remember what he said last time. I know I keep bringing this up. It's because it keeps being relevant to the stories we're talking about separately with Piers Morgan. And so in getting to what he made public, you have to understand his argument about what fascism is. During my last appearance, he argued that wokeness is fascism. I'll let you hear his argument, starting with mine.
Bring Luke in.
I feel like I've told you this, Piers. Deborah and I just recently had a conversation on my show. I definitely clarified this for her. No one, again, and I should clarify two things before we watch the rest of this and then get on to the new bit of news. Number one is that he was doing the whole, oh, it's so unfair that people call Trump a fascist thing. So that's what I'm responding to here. Then we'll get to his woke equals fascist point. Number two is you should be subscribed. Click the subscribe button. Again, relevant, prominent Democrats in positions of power are saying Trump is Hitler. Stop with that. It's the whiniest thing. No one says that. If you think we shouldn't,
the Madison Square Garden thing was literally described as a neo-Nazi rally. A neo-Nazi rally.
When Trump's
it was full of Jewish people. There was a Holocaust survivor in the front row.
I haven't called it that. Can I please finish the dang point? The point that I don't really care about the Mika Joe thing is just, sort of cringe. But much more important is that we keep going around this merry-go-round. Oh, they called him Hitler, now this, now that. I'm sure some random people on the internet say that. But again, that's not the line from Biden and Harris. That's not the line from Trump's own former administration. So can you please...
They called him a fascist.
Biden and Harris don't say something Democrats aren't
so you think he is a fascist?
That's a horrible line to live by. Right. That's ridiculous.
All right, Luke, but Luke, to be clear, Luke, you think he is a fascist?
Of your behavior,
Luke,
Piers, on this
is he
show.
A fascist? Luke, is he a fascist?
Oh, of course, he absolutely exhibits fascistic tendencies.
So why did Joe Biden invite a fascist to the White House? Is he a fascist sympathizer?
Because, I wanted to mention that from Deborah's point. If you respect democracy first and foremost,
then the democratic
will of the people. The democratic will of the people is more important than what you feel about the ideology. And it's important to point out, we have to learn from history, not to equate things, but to say, okay, what signs can we get from
a peaceful transfer of power to a man you believe is a fascist?
I'm curious what you would describe, you, Piers, what you would describe trying to illegally stay in power despite losing an election. What do you call that?
I thought it was completely outrageous what Trump tried to do.
Why are you obsessed with January 6th?
But I tell you, but Luke,
I explained that to you, Deborah. You know why.
Outrageous.
Hang on.
Because you wake up and think about it all day, every day. You guys are so obsessed.
Luke asked me a question. Let me answer. Here's what I think a fascist is. A fascist is somebody who...
So you might notice, every single time he's cornered, and if Piers Morgan sees this, love to come back on and you address the questions I actually asked, he answers a question I didn't ask, right? Because I asked, you've spoken out against Trump trying to illegally overturn the election results. So why are you now acting like Trump doesn't exhibit fascistic tendencies when that's one of the most obvious examples of it? And he goes, well, it's outrageous to try to illegally overturn election results, but you asked me what fascist is. Let me define it. I didn't ask that. I told you, and then I asked you what you would describe, if not fascist, trying to overthrow electoral results. And now he just starts talking about his version of fascist in terms of the definition.
Wants everybody else to conform to their narrow worldview. They want to dictate how you lead your life, what books you read. Hang on, don't all jump in. What books you read, what movies you can watch.
And factually incorrect.
Try hard, Emma. Just take a little vow of silence for a few seconds. Right? What heroes you're allowed to admire, what statues you can respect, what clothes you can wear, what songs you can listen to, blah, 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 blah. So you know who the actual purest personification of a modern day fascist is? A member of the woke brigade, because that's exactly what the woke people do. They behave like fascists. And you may not want to hear it, but trust me, you do.
No, based on your false definition of...
Okay, first of all, oh my gosh, and we're going to get to how this is crazy that he said that, given what now he's doing. But I thought you said it was dangerous to call people fascists. It's horrible for us to say Trump trying to overthrow elections seems fascistic. Back in 2020, in 2021. Or the examples of going after media outlets, etc. Then he goes, it's reprehensible you would call someone fascist, but you're fascist, which is something else. And so Piers Morgan has done the left me thing, right? And are there radical people on the left? Yeah. And I've explained how that doesn't change the judgment between the two parties and the parties and the two sets of people in positions of power. But setting that aside, what's an example he might cite of the left leaving him? Cancel culture, right? That's what he's citing there. It's fascist in his mind for the left to say, this is what you should like. These are the jokes that you can say are funny. This is the gender that you can be, whatever he believes. These are the books you can read, even though that's a Republican thing. But cancel culture, put simply. And he's spoken out against that before. Why are we trying to cancel people? That's the woke brigade. That's fascist. And let's say I agreed with him. Then, Piers, what do we make of this op-ed? Someone did an op-ed in the New York Post saying, The View is a pointless, irrelevant, Trump-loathing joke. Cancel it. Oh, wait, Piers Morgan wrote that and released it this morning. Piers, I thought we were against cancel culture. And it's funny that he even used the word cancel. He didn't even say, so we should not watch them. Cancel. The exact thing that he says is fascist. Which, by the way, you are allowed to think people should be canceled, and they're allowed to disagree with you, and we're all allowed to scream at each other about it. That's all fine. None of that is fascism. Which is why we were trying to explain to him that definition was false. But by his definition, let me read you this fascist article about The View. In my worst nightmares, Piers Morgan writes, I find myself trapped on a desert island with with the host of The View. And all day long, I'm subjected to them snarling, whining, scowling, seething, and cursing about the same thing. Donald Trump. The nightmares are long, torrid, mentally scarring, and always involve the exact same pattern. I do respect the writing here, though. Joyless Joy Behar, who once wore blackface to a Halloween party and then lied about it, marches up and down the beach loudly mocking and reviling Trump as a lying racist hypocrite. Piers, for the sake of my mental health and yours, I hope this is just to create an article and you don't actually have nightmares like this. Whoopi Goldberg, who was suspended for saying the Holocaust wasn't about race, sits by the ocean howling that Trump is a deluded, ill-informed, race-baiting imbecile. And this story ends in a beautiful way, so hold on. Anna Navarro, who said Trump was not elected legitimately in 2016, spews constant bile-fueled abuse about him. I've never seen someone go to war for Trump like Piers Morgan's doing right now. But what he said last time I was on the show is he's not remotely right-wing, I think is the quote. Resides under a palm tree, ranting that he's a lying election denier who deploys ugly rhetoric. Alyssa Fair Griffin, who was once paid $183,000 to be Trump's communications aide at the White House and enthusiastically sold him to America as a brilliant president, paces around seething that he's the worst president of all time. It's almost like something happened in between when she worked for him and when she started speaking out against him. Oh, that thing I brought up about the election. Sonny Hostin, okay, you get the point. He's going through all the hosts, and then he depicts this really strange dream that I guess he has in a reoccurring way. Their nadir, came the day after the election when, to their horror, the man they've spent years branding a vile, bigoted, racist, fascist won absolutely everything: the popular vote, the electoral college, the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. In a truly farcical gesture of brazen bias, the 6 hosts all trotted out in funeral black clothing because they were mourning. And yet, ironically, it was their own professional funeral that they were almost certainly attending. Goodness gracious. So I can't read this all to you, but he talks more and more about this and how it's terrible what they say about him. And the last quote is this: "I don't like cancel culture." He specifies, "But given that the hosts of The View have, by their own admission, worked so hard to cancel Donald Trump, it's the time they were canceled themselves." By the way, not liking a politician is not the same as trying to cancel them. And I'm not going to come and be defenders of The View hosts. Sometimes they're saying things I agree with. I'm sure sometimes, I don't really watch it much, but I'm sure sometimes they say things I disagree with or have tones I disagree with or engage in hyperbole, just like any person in the media. Okay? This isn't protagonist versus antagonist, but antagonist that we need to talk about, where he is admitting he doesn't like cancel culture. He argued to moi that it was fascist and is now calling for cancellation of The View. And what's the big argument as to why they should be canceled? Because they say potty words about Donald Trump. They're really mean about Trump. And we can't be mean about the dear weeder. I'll stop talking like a baby, I promise. But it's so interesting. This story came to my attention and I started pondering. I feel like someone else said naughty things about Donald Trump. Who could that have been? Piers Morgan again. What the heck? Is this real, Jaden? What are we looking at? Piers Morgan wrote back in 2021, "If Trump can't be trusted to tweet, he can't be trusted with the nuclear codes. He's lost his mind, and America needs to get this dangerous, deluded, despicable lunatic out of the White House now." Piers, now you have to cancel yourself. Now you're on the island with them. I don't know what you're doing on the island, looking around for firewood, screaming about the despicable lunatic that is Donald Trump, which I agree with you, but you have to add yourself to that nightmare as well. But this has been, last time I was on, I referred to better Piers times. It's not that Piers has ever been fully aligned with the principles that I think people should be aligned with, but he at least was more willing to speak out against the abhorrent behavior of Donald Trump. Again, around the time where he was trying to overturn the election. This was January 7th, 2021. And this is what happens when you lean into, for audience growth reasons or just personal ideological alignment. It's a weird time to have such a political awakening this late in your life, but apparently that's happening. And now Piers is one of the bigger Trump cheerleaders out there. And he's calling cancellations of people by the woke brigade fascist, while calling for the cancellation of people for speaking ill of Trump when he's spoken ill of Trump. Crazy, crazy times. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Get the bonus show by clicking that join button below.